That's right.
Oh, and you still kind of hear it.
If it gets that technical, I'll throw it over.
Yeah, I'll broadcast. Share. Sorry, I didn't.
That's okay. We can allow folks in. But that's good that you have that link up because I was going to refer to it as well. We have to take, Jen, we have to take roll call for everybody.
It's a council meeting, so. It's just, I mean, I wrote down everything he was on when we were here.
But if we have comments from any members.
They just have to speak, make sure it should be signed as analysts.
Post anything on our side, right? Post here.
Yeah.
All right, just wanted.
So I put everybody, there's like 32 panels between the town side and the school. But yeah, definitely remind people they need to identify themselves every time.
Yeah, well, and I'll also give a little reminder about keep your comments on point.
Yeah.
Just to stay focused.
And try not to.
Well,
Good luck with that.
we're
Yeah.
we're live.
The video.
Remember, kids, people can hear you.
Yeah.
We're just, that'll stop. Reminders.
But Keith, he's such a great guy.
Keith Hamilton, you gotta love.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Izzy just peeking over your shoulder there.
That's Izzy. Keep it up. I can do Jennifer Aniston if you want. That head. Is that better?
Because you'll get called out on it by someone. Somebody was like, "That's you." Oh, sorry. I didn't know how to shut it off last time. Corey was here.
That's a pretty hectic, pre-moments, pre-meeting moments.
We're very lucky Steve Cross is doing it awesome.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more now.
Was it Providence or East Providence?
Providence is happening today.
Yeah.
We have the professional person, so we can usually kick you out.
Just gonna give you guys a heads up during Pledge of Allegiance, there is a couple second delay. So just
So Kevin starts and then Mark comes in.
just be prepared. Be prepared for that awkward moment. Okay.
We're social distancing. Well, you should be able to see the. I'm sorry, I'm just use my iPad.
Good, Mr. Roberts? Good, we got, Alex, we got Cindy. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our June 10th Town Council meeting. Tonight is our budget hearing. And before we get started, on behalf of the town, I'd like to pass on our condolences to the passing Town Council.
Mr. President,
Yes.
can I ask, that was, how you just said yes was great. If I could ask you to make sure you speak up like that, because sometimes you fade out.
Okay, did you guys hear me or no?
Yes.
Oh,
We couldn't hear you at all, honestly.
okay.
Pretend you're in the middle school auditorium.
Okay, I will start over. Before we get started tonight, I would like to pass along on behalf of the town council and the town, our condolences to the Edwards family on the passing of Dorothy Edwards. Ms. Edwards was a former town council and representative, so we just wanted to pass along our condolences. And with that, I would ask that we now stand for our pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women serving arms way. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. No, I voted. Do we get you? Okay. All right. First item here will be to have a roll call.
Mr. Jukusa?
Present.
Ms. Abbott?
Present.
Mr. Hamilton?
Hello.
Mr. Katzman?
Here,
Mr. Kelly?
Present.
Dr. Ryan?
Here.
Grania?
Here. Okay. What I'd like to do is just to make sure, in preparation of the hearing tonight, I would like to make sure that everybody is looking at the same document. Those of you that are at home, we have a link posted to our website. And for those of you that are not in front of a computer, or I guess I could read it out, but I'll read it out anyway, just in case you're not able to stream, but you're listening in on your phone. The web link is www.portsmouthri.com//archive center/view file/item/352. That will get you to our budget document that we will be reviewing tonight. Tonight we're here, we've already had our reviews of the budget, and the council has the provisional budget. So at this point, after months of preparation. So we're going to turn it over to Mr. Rayner, and he will review the budget. I do ask that when it's time for questions, folks that have listened in before, it's *6 to mute and unmute your phone. *7 will allow you to raise your *9. I'm sorry, *9 will allow you to indicate that you have a question. For those of you that are online through your browser, you have the icon to indicate raising your hand. Anyone that will be providing comments tonight, we ask that you state your name and address for our clerk. And any comments that you do have, I ask that you be brief and concise to the topic. And that way, for those of you that do comment, we'll have adequate time for comment. Thank you all. And Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. President, Madam Chair, members of the council, school committee, and people participating. The proposed town budget was presented to the council at budget meetings on April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Proposed changes were made, and a motion to adopt the provisional budget was passed on May 11th. We are here tonight to review the town council's provisional budget. Following tonight, the final budget is scheduled to be adopted at the June 22nd council meeting. Barbara, if we could start on page 7 of the budget, please. Here you'll find the letter that I wrote to the council, which was first presented to the council at the beginning of April. The letter was revised to reflect changes made during and since our budget meeting. Provisional budget details $66,607,971 in expenditures from the general fund, which is 2.67% over last year. For inflation rates, meaning all items less food and energy, for the previous 12 months leading up to the presentation of this budget was 2.4%, and the overall inflation rate was 2.33%. The difference between the budget increase and the inflation rate is largely attributed to lost revenue. At the time the budget was provisionally approved, our property tax rate was anticipated to be $15.004 per $1,000 in assessed value. Since the adoption of since the provisional approval of the budget, revised assessed values due to hearings with the valuation company have resulted in a projected tax rate of 15.074, so a 7-cent increase per $1,000 in assessed value. This is a $1.33 or 8.11% decrease in the current tax rate. Roll to page 9, please. At the top of page 9, you can see the total property levy of $56,145,283. Total property levy is determined by adding the residential, the commercial, and the tangible property taxes, property levies. This is a 3.6% increase over last year and is about $217,000 below the cap. The cap is the limit to which this levy can be raised. Levy on motor vehicles is not factored in when determining the levy cap. Those interested, a detailed breakout of each of these levies can be found on pages 16 and 17. Total revenues and expenditures are highlighted at the bottom of the respective sections on this page. Now if we can scroll to page 10. If we scroll to page 10, we can turn our attention to projected revenues. Starting from the top of the page and continuing to page 11, we can see projected revenues from specific sources. We project revenue from property taxes, state aid, government operations, public safety operations, the Prudence Island Transfer Station, rental income, Glen Manor House operations, and grants. President, the total found at the bottom of page 11 is projected to be $66,607,971 in revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Do you have any questions from councilors, comments? I do see that we have a hand up. Mr. Fitzgerald, are you able to? Mr. Fitzgerald, can you hear us?
Mr. President, it's Larry Fitzmaurice. Did you call on me?
You have your hand is up, yes.
I understand my hand is up, but I couldn't quite hear my name.
Oh,
I'd like to begin with a general comment about this meeting in general. Portsmouth Concerned Citizens objects to holding this meeting in the fashion that we are doing tonight. That is via the Zoom video conferencing system. We have found through some experience with this system that it is difficult to use for many people. It is often, the audio is not very good, and it's not very good tonight either. I can't speak as to why. And I believe that there's good faith being used here to operate the system, certainly on behalf of the president. But it just isn't in support of the mission that we have here tonight. I believe that the system has put a wall up. Is there somebody speaking?
no, you have the floor.
Okay, I've got some feedback then, so if I'm not clear, please interrupt me and ask me to do better. In any case, we believe that the council using this system has essentially erected a further barrier between itself and the citizens. There are very few people who are actually participating in this that don't have a direct interest in talking to the council. So I think you know that. Certainly, I've been at all of these meetings and I can see that as well. But we believe that the participants in government have a right to be here and to discuss this and to look you people in the eye regarding this budget. And I can understand why some may not want to do that, but that's what the charter intends. And this is not being conducted in conformance with the charter. We believe this is in fact a charter violation. But we also believe that there were a number of options available to the council that it did not exercise. For instance, it could have held this meeting outside with a rain date in much the fashion that has already been approved by the council for the town's 2 beaches. So this could have been done outside. It might have been easy to do, but it could have been done outside with a relatively few people that show up to this meeting present. So my objection is on the record here. The council has rather casually passed over this violation of the charter, and we think that that's a very bad precedent, and we're concerned about it. So having said that, and we'll move on to page 10. In this budget, it is my understanding that we're still intending to use surplus monies from fiscal year 18 and 19 as revenue in this budget. And if that is the case, there should have been a revenue line in the revenue summary. And I looked hard through this document and I couldn't find it. Maybe it's there somewhere. But in any case, this is indeed a revenue event, and it should note in the revenue that we're receiving monies from outside of the operational budget and outside of the taxing function. So we're always concerned about transferring funds from reserves or funds into this budget, and that's the point here. Am I incorrect about that?
Yes.
We're still using the reserve from the fund balance in this budget?
That part is correct, but there had to be separate motions, and the council did that. There was a separate motion to use surplus money to fund capital expenses and to establish a COVID fund. That is in accordance with the GASB standards, and that's what we did. and we had that verified by the Auditor General and our auditor.
Yes, but there still should be a recognition of the revenue being received by the general fund here.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect.
Well, if you take money out of the fund balance,
You budgeted, so you can't budget those numbers twice.
all right. I disagree, Mr. Rayner, but I appreciate your answer.
We can take it up with the Auditor General at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Well, I'm taking it up with you gentlemen. That's where this
Telling you right
is
now.
supposed to go. I'm moving on, so I'll wait for page 16 to come up. I have the next question there.
Continue on to the expenditures.
So now let's scroll to page 32. So at page 32, we'll turn our attention to projected expenditures. First section on page 32 breaks out total expenditures for general government. For our purposes, general government is essentially made up of all the functions and operations located in town hall. This was provisionally approved at $5,838,516. Next section is public safety, which includes police and fire operations. This has been provisionally approved at $14,042,897. Public works follows. Public works includes road paving, snow removal, and the Prudence Island Transfer Station, which was previously provisionally approved at $3,917,610. This is followed by recreation and parks, which is provisionally approved for $230,561. President, we have a municipal government subtotal of $24,029,584.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have any questions, comments from councilors?
Mr. President, this is Keith Hamilton.
Yes.
I just a procedural thing. As people are coming up to speak, they do need to state their name and address for the record. I don't believe Mr. Fitzmaurice did, but I can recite his address if you like at 50 Kristen Court.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. I believe we are back to Mr. Fitzmaurice.
Thank you, Mr. President. And indeed, I am from 50 Kristen Court. But thank you, Mr. Hamilton. I try to make that statement when I speak. I'd like to speak to page 16, which we passed over. Town Administrator Rayner commented about the levy, and that's where that is broken out for those people who are not familiar with what we're going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is that we have, we've had a number of statements about how much the taxes are going to go up. I would specifically going to speak here to the residential property taxes, which when I calculate year over year, which is not the way the council always calculates, it's 4.42%. And I think that that's unconscionable, especially in view of the economic times in which we live. Many of us in this town are going to face difficulties in the future. And it shouldn't be one of those difficulties, shouldn't be a government that wants more taxes than it deserves. I would like to also point out again that the town of Portsmouth has the highest taxes in the area. They're higher than Middletown or in Newport, or many of the other communities around us, Little Compton and Tiverton. And we didn't used to be that way. 5 years or so ago, we used to be below most. So it's a bad trend. We live in a high-tax state. We shouldn't also have to be in a relatively high-tax town, but that's where we find ourselves. But that increase is a very substantial one, And it isn't, in my judgment, necessary, but it's also very damaging for those people who have to pay these taxes. And I have every confidence that if anyone fails to pay their taxes, that the town of Portsmouth will foreclose and sell their properties. So there's more reason should have been used here. There should have been a purposeful look to see what can be saved and restructured, as many of the towns around us have done. We have not taken that path. I'd also like to speak to something that came up as we studied this document on page 16 as a comment, and that is the comparison between the commercial real estate property tax levy and that for the residential levy. We've had, as a policy in the town for years, the plan at least to increase the percentage of the property taxes paid by the commercial community, and as a goal of increasing that. But if you look closely at this stuff, you will see that the commercial property tax actually fell. And even if at the same rate, it sounds counterintuitive, but a couple of us looked at that pretty closely and did a spreadsheet. We now see that it's indeed the case. But the point is that the commercial property taxes paid is 10% or a little bit higher, I mean a little bit lower than the total levy against residential property. What that means is you don't really have a chance in hell of ever adjusting that ratio. The residential property taxes are expanding at a much faster rate because of the mathematics, not intent, than the commercial rates. And I also want to say, I believe it's a good policy to have the same rate for commercial as we do for the residential. So I'm not advocating changing this. I'm just using this as an illustration about how the often stated objective of bringing up with the percentage of the commercial rates as of the whole of the levy is not likely to ever work. And for this year, the residential rates increased substantially greater than those commercial. So I just make that comment in passing. I think it's something we need to understand, all of us do. I think this budget was written before, speaking of the levy, before we understood two consequences. One was a withdrawal of the application by the school department for the bond, the $65 million bond for construction. And the other one is obviously the pandemic associated with coronavirus. Those two events affect our budget greatly, but it's my impression that the tax levy was done the way it is now in this budget to support the growing of the tax base, to support that school bond. And that, as a consequence, has not been changed, because we haven't changed anything in this budget in terms of page 16, I'm aware of. And I just point that out, because I think that's what happened. But we don't have a need to grow the tax base anymore, now that we know we're not going to have a bond in any time soon, because the state won't be able to afford it beyond any shadow of a doubt. So,
Okay,
I'll wait till a future page. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
thank you for your comments and your opinions. Civic support.
Turn to page 33. Okay. Civic support is at the top of page 33. It should be noted that the Prudence Island Volunteer Fire Organization is included in civic support in accordance with a signed memorandum of agreement between the town and the volunteer organization, and in accordance with their request. Civic support also includes state library aid, which is a pass-through to Portsmouth Free Library. Total civic support was provisionally approved at $1,028,226. Next, you'll see debt service towards the bottom of the page there. You can see that the total projected debt service for next fiscal year is provisionally approved at $2,595,556. For those interested, you can see a total breakout of town and school debt beginning at page 60. Turn to the following page, page 34. Here you can see a section labeled Other Items. It should be noted that capital projects and expenditures will be funded through the appropriate department budgets and the fiscal year 2019 surplus, as approved during the previous budget meetings. Next year's projected capital projects and expenditures are broken out on pages 78 and 79. This section also includes funds to be distributed to other post-employment benefits, interest on the septic loan bond, an open space reserve fund, and a contingency account. The total for other items was provisionally approved at $115,991. President, the sum of these subsections equals a total municipal side of the budget of a provisionally approved $27,769,357.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Comments, questions from our counselors?
So, the school budget is summarized towards the bottom of page 34. However, let's turn to page 77. On page 77,
Give it a minute. A second. Okay, take your time.
all right. He's cool now. Yeah, keep going. There you are, right there. Right there. So, I've asked you to turn to page 77 because we can see the school budget broken out more clearly here. The school budget is a sum of various parts which consists of direct town appropriations and several other sources of revenue. Beginning at the top of this page, you can see that we project federal impact aid of $230,000. Following that, we project state aid to be $3,845,864. Following that, you'll see miscellaneous revenue is projected to be $1,893,059. Miscellaneous revenue is a sum of anticipated receipts, profit shares, tuition payments, and Medicaid reimbursement. Direct funding from the town general fund includes a local appropriation of $34,570,876 and an appropriation for school capital expenditures in the amount of $421,875 for a total town appropriation of $34,992,751. The total school budget is a sum of these sections and was previously approved at $40,961,674. It should be noted that the school department anticipates additional restricted federal grant money in the amount of $1,107,000. This is reflected on page 10 of the school budget, which was approved by the school committee and provisionally approved by the council on May 11th. During last year's budget hearing, we discussed adding this into the budget as an anticipated revenue stream and detailing its anticipated expenditure. We were overtaken by current events as we are finishing the proposed budget, and we regret this oversight. It is noted at the bottom of page 77. I have discussed this with the finance directors, and we will better reflect this in the next fiscal year's budget. Provisionally approved school budget is $40,961,674, and the council also provisionally approved the school department's anticipated receipt of restricted federal grants totaling $1,107,000. So, Mr. President, if we return to page 34, there you go. We will see that the total town and school budget sums to $66,607,971, which the council has provisionally approved and is equal to the projected revenues.
Thank you, Mr. Brand. We have any questions or comments from councilors?
Mr. President, it's Keith Hamilton. I have a comment and a motion I'd like to make in terms of the school budget and specifically the capital funds. Monday night, I tried in vain to create flexibility in the overall budget by moving $300,000 from school operating appropriation over to the town side in order to have some flexibility if we have serious revenue drops or any large increases in overtime from either the police or fire department. That motion failed, but in light of comments from the school department of the purchase of Chromebooks with anticipated revenue surplus from this year, and also to, again, increase that flexibility that we'd have, I would like to make a motion that we move $231,875 from the school capital line over to the town council contingency fund. That would leave $190,000 in the capital, which I believe is the cost of the new phone system.
Mr. Hamilton, could you please repeat the number you quoted, the number, dollar?
The overall school capital is the $421,875. I subtracted out the $190,000 that I believe is the cost for the phone system. And if Mr. Duro can confirm that for me, I would appreciate that, which would be $231,875 moving to contingency.
Breaking up there, Mr. Hamilton.
And Mr. Duro has his hand up.
Mr. President, if I may comment.
Yes, Mr. Gavin.
Thank you. I think I appreciate the sentiment, but frankly, moving 300,000 or 200 and what have you, whatever the number was, moving money from the school side to the town side does not affect the taxpayers at all. It doesn't change the bottom line of the budget. And it doesn't create, in my opinion, doesn't create any flexibility. Frankly, the school department is doing exactly what this town council voted to do, and that is set aside money in a contingency fund with the surplus from last year because of the unknowns they will be facing due to complications when they reopen this fall. And I respect that body's calculus in reserving those funds in that fashion. So I'm not inclined to take that action.
Um, we have a motion, we have I know that there's some comments, but do we have a second for discussion?
I'll second for discussion.
We have a motion and a second. I know,
Second by Mr. Bell.
second by Mr. Kelly. Do have some comments. Dr. Kenworthy is here. Dr. Kenworthy?
I just wanted, as a point of clarification, when Mr. Dier spoke the other night about the money we were using from this year's surplus to purchase Chromebooks in anticipation of needs this year, we were already taking that step after, in total, from our original capital request back in March, and through discussions and actions taken by the council, if we were aware, our capital request was reduced by $92,000. So, in actions we took, we were purchasing those books from this year's surplus to make up for those.
Thank you, Dr. Kenworthy. Is Chris all set, or?
Good conversation.
Okay. All right. Marks?
Mr. President, to respond to Dr. Kenworthy, the school department currently has $890,000 in a capital surplus and an anticipated roughly $600,000 to $700,000 increase in surplus again this year. I don't think it's out of the realm of, I guess, fair play for the school department to be able to self-fund the $231,875 essentially in desks and chairs out of that surplus. It does create extreme, not extreme, a little bit of flexibility in terms of the town council and the town administrator to be able to apply those money if need be in an emergency. And I don't think, especially in a day and age right now with the announcement today, and I am painfully aware that we won't get a lot of the $50 million that the governor has set aside for helping in transportation costs next year in terms of COVID planning. But there is federal money and state money coming to help us get over this hump in the next 12 months. So I don't think it's a huge stretch or a huge inconvenience for the school department to be able to utilize some of that essentially $1.7 million of capital funds that they'll have in order to pay for the desks and chairs that are within the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Mr. Fitzmaurice?
Thank you, Mr. President. Quick comment. I think that the council needs to reserve as much flexibility as they can. Reading the paper today, the Providence Journal, nobody really seems to know where the money is or what it's going to be used for at this point. It has come from the federal government. And, so I think it's a little difficult to tell where we're going to get any money from anywhere. There may be sufficient funding for this, but that's not yet clear. I think it's prudent to reserve for council use any capital funds being expended for the school department. The reason is, and I'll mention this in particular, is that once this budget is approved in late June, that money cannot be recalled from the school department. So it would be lost to the council for emergency purposes. I think it's prudent to reserve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzmaurice.
So first of all, Emily Copeland, Chair, School Committee. You may have just checking. So first of all, we'd like to thank the town council for not cutting our operating budget last night. That would have caused some significant problems. So we really appreciate that. My only comment is, and and I understand we can self-fund capital for a year if this is what the town council chooses to do, minus the cost for the phones. If that would give the town more flexibility, we are one town, and I think the school recognizes that. I would just point out two things. One, if the school spends capital money on approved maintenance request by RIDE, then the town gets back 35% of those dollars. So I don't know what's 35% of 220,000. The town would be forfeiting getting that 35% back because, again, the taxpayers are going to spend money on maintaining the buildings or either way. So I would just say that's one thing to think about. But if the flexibility is the greater need, then it might be, the decision of the town council to take the 220,000 from capital.
Mr. President, can I respond to that for a second? Because I don't believe the purchasing of chairs and desks fall under safety and upgrades that would be reimbursable with that 35%. I don't believe the phone system will do it.
No, that's correct. We intentionally put things on this year's capital request because we are finishing up our 5-year plan. But I'm just saying, if we were to spend it on things that have been approved by RIDE, then it would not. I mean, then you would get 35% back.
Correct, but the list of items that are on the capital are desks, chairs, and a phone system. So they are not reimbursable, so that point is kind of moot for this discussion.
You're correct.
Yeah. Dr. Kinlan?
Thank you. Just in the notes that I had, again, the phone system, the last total that I saw was 200,000, and then it's like $10, but I just wanted to make sure we get the accurate. And Mr. Dior was on if I am incorrect in that.
There he is.
Good evening, Mr. Dior.
He's still muted.
Correct. The phone system is 200,000. The rest of the capital is for the furniture and fixtures.
That being the case, I'd be willing to adjust my motion to 221,875 to fully fund the phone system. If Mr. Kelly would jump on in second and change his as well.
Second, but I have a question for Mr. Dioro if he's still on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, excuse my unknowledgeableness about the sorry about that, that's not a word, about the school budget, but how much have you programmed to spend of the current capital reserve fund totaling somewhere around 280?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly, you broke up there at the end. Can you repeat that?
Is any of the capital reserve fund programmed to be spent in the next fiscal year?
Yes. The number, the $890,000 that Mr. Hamilton quoted earlier is already net of the amounts that have been encumbered for approved expenditures. So that's the number left over that won't be spent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh.
Mr. DeLauro, does that capital account include amounts for OPEB?
No, that is strictly capital. The OPEB amount is separate, and that's $340,000.
Okay.
And then you have the 2% of the budget in the rainy day fund as well, just for my informational.
You are correct. That number is separate, and that is $593,000.
Okay. Thank you very much. So if the school committee so chose they could pass a motion to spend that 221,875 out of their current capital reserve fund, so those furniture and fixtures do get purchased in the next fiscal year?
If you're asking me, yes, if the school committee voted to approve that, we could do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
If I could ask a related question, Mr. President. Mr. Kelly asked about the so-called rainy day fund on the school department, which was $500-something thousand.
I think it's about 590,000.
590, thank you. What is the town's fund balance and what percentage of our budget does that represent on the town side?
I don't have,
$11 million and 11%.
actually, that sounds correct. The nuance there is that the fund balance on the town side is a factor in determining our bond rating. So if we were to spend that down, we would jeopardize the town bond rating.
I would like to amend the motion, Mr. Hamilton, to actually not put this in the town council contingency fund and to put it in a special town council capital improvement fund.
It's not the town council contingency fund, it's just a contingency fund for the town. There's two different lines.
Oh,
There's
okay,
one
all right.
underneath town council, then there's just a plain contingency fund.
I'd still like to have it in a special capital improvement fund in case the school committee does have need of it for, if they go somehow beyond their $890,000, that we have it available for them.
It's available for whatever emergency arises in the contingency fund. In 1 year, it was used to replace the air handler at the or furnace at the fire department.
Fire station.
All right, if that's where it's most flexible, and then I'm okay with it.
As long as we don't specifically earmark it for something, then it's flexible.
I would just like to add, I appreciate the discussions tonight. In any attempt here, if this were to be approved, the additional money going into a contingency will provide us with some additional. I think that is the appropriate item is to put it in the contingency account, and then that way it gives us that additional flexibility. This is something that we appreciate the cooperation here, and I think even if this is approved, and regardless of this item altogether, I think moving forward, we've had some discussions tonight. We somewhat flexible because we do not know what is what's in store for us as we continue to manage this pandemic and some of these challenges. So we have a game plan. That's what this budget is. This budget is a game plan, and we will need everybody's cooperation to help execute this game plan. So I know this isn't ideal for the school, but they do have some flexibility there with the ability to self-fund from a capital, fund. So I think this is it will help us out. So I hope everybody. I know these aren't decisions. These are not easy decisions, but I do hope that everybody takes these decisions seriously, and we try to do what is best. I know everybody does take it serious, but wherever we can to try and provide that flexibility. So that's all I have to add. Do you have any further questions, comments, Mr. Gaspin?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a budget hearing, and there are the school committee chair as well as several members of the school committee are present. What is being proposed is reducing the capital account line item in the school budget to put it on a town council side account for flexibility. I'd be interested in hearing a definitive thought on that from the school committee chair and any other school committee members present. And if my question wasn't clear, I'm voicing skepticism that this is that this move would bear much fruit. Or provide the flexibility that those proposing it think it does. But I would like to hear from cutting the school committee budget, the school department budget by 300,000, 220,000, whatever the final number was. I apologize for not having written that down. Is a significant move and should not be taken lightly. And a lot of work has gone into that school department budget. It was revised in light of COVID-19 with the school department folks working with the town to reduce line items already. So I'd like to hear if there's a final statement from the school committee chair and any other school committee members on their thoughts about the motion.
Well, you know, if I were just speaking with my school committee hat on, I'd say, we'd like all the money, please. I do want the public to know that the capital budget is used very productively. It's used to maintaining the buildings of the town that belong to the taxpayers. And so I think it's used very responsibly. We do have enough to pay for next year's capital request for the furnishings and fixtures. And we also recognize that we are one town. So while we ideally probably would not like to see this reduction, I feel like if this is something that we can do to help the town out this year, to give them a little bit more flexibility in the time of sort of the pandemic, then the school committee can self-fund 221,000 in capital next year. And I think that might be that would be acceptable from my opinion. Obviously, we haven't voted as a full committee, so I can't speak for everybody, but just speaking with my personal opinion, I think, you know, we can accommodate that.
All right, Tom Vadney here. I have no objection in principle using our capital to fund the desk and chairs and all that, provided we can get confirmation that that won't affect any sort of rebate. I would hate to lose that 35%. And if we can confirm, yes, you will not get a rebate, then I'd say, yeah, sure.
Correct, Mr. Vandy, that the items that we submitted for the capital request this year, we did so intentionally because they were not approved for, they were not part of our proposal to the state for reimbursement.
Thank you, Mr. Vadney. Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I thank the school committee chair and comments Mr. Vadney for being interested in supporting this move that they feel will be of some support to the town. So with the school committee's support, I use the word cautiously because I know they haven't voted on it. But with the comments of the school committee chair, I'm comfortable supporting, was it 221? Was that the final revised amendment?
221,875.
And that was the figure that was indicated would be sufficient to cover after they spend the other funds on hand that they identified for the phone system and desks, chairs.
The breakdown of the remaining after the original cut right after provision budget were desk, chairs, phone system, and then there was also Chromebooks in there, but I believe the Chromebooks have already been purchased in anticipation of more homeschooling next year. So,
look, we're all doing things that we would not prefer to, and I appreciate the school committee being willing to put some money aside in a contingency fund. For all we know, it may end up back in the school department. They may need it more than we do. So we would find out.
If we don't receive enough reimbursement from the state in terms of what we need to spend on busing or other things for COVID,
Yep.
very well could end up there. But being in the town side of the budget, it provides the flexibility that if we have extreme overages and overtime due to COVID-related issues, we have the money to do that as well.
Mr. President, Linda Gifuza, I did not support the original motion that was made on Monday by Mr. Hamilton because I did not think that we should be taking from the operational budget. It creates a structural deficit, and I think we don't want to create the situation where we are whipsawing because we find a surplus and then we blithely decide, oh, let's just move it around. But I do think I support the current motion because it does offer the flexibility of allowing both the town and the schools to access some frankly, emergency COVID money if need be. So I would lean towards voting for this right now.
I don't see any more. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And then, yeah.
Except Mr. Hamilton.
Hamilton's motion, it didn't get amended. Mr. Kelly was gonna amend it.
I amended my motion to 221,875.
Right.
And Mr. Kelly seconded it.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Capson?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Aguilar?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0 to make that adjustment.
Mr. President, if I may, just commend the work of the school district, the school department, and the school committee in reducing their operational budget as well as in spirit and in words agreeing to provide us this flexibility within our budget with their capital. I really do appreciate all their hard work.
You're here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kelly, and yes, thank you, Dr. Kenworthy, and the school department, school committee for working with us here. And we are one town. That's a very fair statement. Work together more than ever as we continue to navigate through some of this uncertainty. So this is just the beginning. Let's move on to our next item, which is the enterprise fund.
So if we can scroll to page 94, please. Okay, so the last budget sections to discuss tonight are the enterprise funds, which begin here on page 94. The first enterprise fund is the Glen Farm Equestrian Center. By contract, the concessionaire shall pay the town an annual base fee of $18,000 plus 5% of their annual gross receipts. An amount not to exceed the first $5,000 of revenue is credited back to the concessionaire to be invested in repairs, renovation, and long-term maintenance. This is monitored through a regular review of the center's financial statements by the Director of Economic Development. The projected revenue minus operation costs will net the fund a projected surplus of $8,000. We go to the next page. Here we see the Headley Street Transfer Station. The transfer station budget operates on a calendar year basis from January 1st to December 31st. This budget was previously approved on November 25th of last year. There was a discussion at last year's budget hearing regarding the longstanding practice of dumping refuse collected from town barrels and shoreline trash pickup events into the compactor. We addressed this in two ways. First, the council approved a carry-in, carry-out policy for town properties. And second, the town pays into the enterprise fund the cost of town dumping. For the enterprise, or for this enterprise fund, it was estimated that the town refuse collected on the roads and in barrels and on the shoreline would equal 6 tons, which means that we reimburse the transfer station about $425. Next page. At Glen Manor House. Glen Manor House Authority is projecting $360,000 in revenue and $216,675 in total expenses, resulting in a net surplus of $143,325. 25%, or $35,831, is projected to be distributed to their capital fund, and 75% of that $143,325, which equals $107,494, is projected to be turned over to the town general fund. And on page 98, we have the septic loan program. This is a program administered for the town by the Rhode Island Housing Authority. The town borrows funds at low cost and relends these funds in the form of low-interest loans to those that may not meet all the requirements of our CISLIP program. CISLIP standing for Community Septic Loan System. Community Septic System Loan Program. We project $6,800 in program service fees and $46,940 to be transferred from the general fund for a total of $53,740 in revenue. We project $8,000 in program and interest expenses, leaving $45,740 available for the program. Mr. President, that ends the discussion on town enterprise funds.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Do we have any questions, comments from councilors? With that concludes the budget. That concludes our budget presentation. Do you have any final comments, questions from councilors? I think Dr. Ryan. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to comment. These are extraordinary times we're living in, and comments have been made throughout this budget process, especially when it was noted that we would be having this hearing held virtually, that it is not an ideal forum in which to do this, and I completely agree with that. It is certainly not, I'm sure, what the people who wrote the charter for the town originally intended, but the central function of government is to protect the safety and well-being of the people it governs, and to put people's health and lives at risk during an epidemic that will claim 1 in 20, the lives of 1 in 20 people it infects. To put people together in a large group to discuss this budget, I think, is irresponsible. I commend Mr. Rayner and the town staff for making this forum work as well as it has, and I am sure that we will be more than happy not to do this again in a non-epidemic year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Well said. Gotcha. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Dr. Ryan, for that thought. I agree completely about that. And I would just like to add a couple more thoughts about the nature of this meeting since the issue was raised by a member of the public in this hearing. Under the laws in place at the time that this meeting had to be scheduled as a hearing and advertised, we could not legally hold a public gathering for this budget hearing. Rules have relaxed a bit since then, but at the time we could not have more than, we could not have the number of people who are on this Zoom meeting right now present. An assertion was made, and the town is in receipt of a letter from the gentleman who spoke representing a private corporation, asserting that this was a charter violation. And I take that kind of language very seriously. In short, that's just false. The local charters and ordinances are always subject to and superseded by state law. Article 13 of the Constitution that allows towns to have home rule charter limits charters to rules that are, quote, not inconsistent with the Constitution and laws. And Rhode Island General Law, Section 3015-7 makes clear that the governor's executive orders have the force and effect of law. So our charter, it stands strong. There has been no violation by having this meeting. And while Dr. Ryan mentioned this may not be ideal, it is not ideal to have an in-person meeting for some folks. There are people who cannot drive at night because of eyesight issues. There are elderly folks who just cannot be out that late or travel. Others, deployed military overseas could participate in this meeting. So to assume that online meetings are superior or inferior to in-person meetings is false. It depends on each person's circumstance. And I certainly hope that we are able to have in-person meetings next year, but also to continue the online access and hopefully improve these systems as we go forward. So I just wanted to make that point on the nature of the meetings that was raised by a couple of folks. And I want to thank the school department and everyone else on the town council and all of our department heads and Mr. Rayner for all the work that they've put in.
Mr. Katzman, I really intended these to be our closing comments, and I know now I have another one from the public. So we have two public. I will allow this and then we'll close after that. So let's go first, Mr. Fitzmaurice.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm the one, of course, that the two members of the council addressed regarding this meeting and how it was held. Anybody that listened to the first part of this meeting would know that. I'll only say that I reviewed the law as well as Mr. Katzman, and it's a very dodgy law, to say the very least, that allows the governor of the state of Rhode Island to pass laws or modify laws on her own dime. So there's a lot to be said about this. People with better educations than mine have certainly said so in the papers. So the idea that somehow that this is just perfectly okay is not exactly accepted around the state. Having said that, I'll move on. We passed over, at least as far as I could tell, the fire department. I'd like to return to that and ask three questions. This is on page 60. The fire department budget shows a salary increase of approximately 10% for all firefighters except for the chief and the deputy chief. This looks a bit excessive, but it adds up to an increase in the salary line of $248,672 for this fiscal year. And I note that there's an elimination of EMT certification bonus of about $179,000. And there's also a uniform allowance that was eliminated, and apparently overtime for dispatch. So in any case, there were some reductions, but the obvious savings were plowed back into what appear to be excessive salary increases to me. Why did these salaries go up 10% in this year?
We can refer you to the collective bargaining agreement, but it's quite simple. They receive 2% raises, and then there's a number of people who get longevity raises. They receive promotions during this time period, and there are other factors that go into determining their salary. So while the collective bargaining agreement states that they were to be given 2% salary raises this year, we're contractually obligated to pay for promotions, longevity, hires, movements in responsibility, and so on and so forth. This is all laid out in the contract.
Well, it seems to be pretty universal, around 10%. And I'll
Mr. Fitzmaurice, we cannot hear you.
okay.
Got you now.
Most of the time I can't hear you either, so. Okay, I won't be able to go into the details. When did we get this labor agreement signed?
This labor agreement was signed last year.
I probably want to come back to the council on this because I'm springing this on you at the last, and you haven't probably heard about it before. But there is a law in the state of Rhode Island that requires collective bargaining fiscal impact statements from the council as soon as they approve one of these labor agreements.
That's
This
correct.
labor agreement was also not announced by the council when it was made, like it should have been. So I just tell you that that's a requirement.
So we're aware of that.
45-5-22.
We are aware of it, and that information was provided at the time. So
Well, I never saw any of it. Who was it provided to?
Provided to the council. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be provided to the citizens, not the council. Presumably, they know what it is, they voted on it. Okay, I think we're gonna have to talk about this at some other point.
I'll refer to the council, and if the council asks me to do something, I'd be more than happy to do it.
I understand, but I'm saying that the school committee, for instance, issues one of these every time they approve a contract, labor contract on the school side. And it's detailed. And it instructs the citizens on what the cost of that budget is going to be. And I think that this law seems to have the same intent.
Yeah,
So I will move on.
Okay, but I believe that information is available on our website. And that is something we can follow up with, after tonight's meeting offline, but I believe that information is available on our website.
Well, I would like to point out that I didn't know about it and I was looking for it.
Okay.
And if there were proper notices made after these executive committee meetings about these votes, I would have known about it. Okay, moving on, page 60. Why are we adding a new assistant chief, fire chief at $85,000 plus probably another 15 or so for his benefits? We already have a chief and a deputy chief, and we're adding now a third senior supervisor as assistant chief. Why are we doing this?
That was also discussed at a previous council meeting. There is no more deputy at the fire station. That position has been replaced by an assistant to the fire chief.
One moment, please.
There's no line item for the deputy under the fire.
Well, that's a good answer. If I can find it here, I'll be happy.
Page 60.
If you look on page 60 and look at the line item that says deputy, follow it over to proposed for fiscal year 2021, and you'll see that there's zero money allotted to that.
Okay, got it. Good answer. Thank you. Also on page 60, the fire department budget has a line item in here for, no, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. This is page 61. The firefighters' main defined benefit pension plan went up $148,000 for this year. This is something that usually has a pretty good size to it. It is usually about 1.4 million to 1.5 million And this year it's gone up to 1.6 million. It is my understanding that we're phasing out these defined benefit programs for retirees. Why did we suddenly go up like that?
Again, that was also discussed at a previous council meeting. The defined benefits, the amount we pay into that is determined by our payment. That is a frozen pension system. In addition, in course of collective bargaining, the 401, the people who are in the 401 were offered the option to transition to the state municipal employee retirement system. Hence, you'll see the amount there. So,
Was there a cost in that transition? Because I remember that there wasn't going to be.
there was a brief to the council. The investments did not bear as much return as was anticipated, so that increased the amount of the ARP payment. And what was the rest of your question, sir?
Well, I understand that the ARC, or the annual required contribution, is defined by the the people who do that business for us. And I understand that process. But I was just curious as to why it went up so much after being relatively flat for a number of years.
You didn't get the returns. I mean, it's
Well,
it's as simple as that.
Okay, well, maybe we need to take another look at our investment strategies. So I understand the answer, so that's acceptable to me. And that's the end of my questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
Mr. President, just a quick comment for the record. The fiscal impact statement and the fire contract are both on the human resources page on the site.
That was the human resources page of the town
Town
website.
website. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do you want to jump to Ms. Green?
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. Nancy Green. Just
Oh,
I was getting
hold on a second.
feedback.
Hold on a second. We're getting a lot of feedback. I don't know if you have your phone and your computer on.
Okay. Nancy Green, 110 Thayer Drive. I was going to go a different way this evening, speaking about revenue, expenses, real numbers, and the appalling amount of taxpayer dollars given to AIPC. But this has never been very successful with the council. So tonight, let's try something different. The proposal fiscal year 2021 budget is unsustainable. There is no way that residents can afford emotionally or financially a budget increase. These are challenging times with no end in sight. Parents, children, friends, neighbors, everyone is emotionally distressed about the pandemic, wondering how and when it will end. What will our future look like? What will the new normal be? Rhode Island, like everywhere else, should expect a long, slow economic recovery. Many residents are experiencing financial hardship. Jobs have been permanently lost, businesses have closed completely, and owners fearful they will not be able to reopen. Even businesses that can reopen have experienced financial hardship. 3 months without any revenue, but fixed expenses remain. Our governor recently asked state agencies for voluntary furloughs before mandating them. A local mayor is requested to delay pay increases before furloughs and layoffs are mandated. State and local governments recognize the decreased revenue and making the necessary changes. Yet the Portsmouth Town Administrator and Finance Director are proceeding like none of this matters. Increasing this budget fails to show empathy for the residents' fears. Town departments should be tasked to set priorities and scrutinize their budget to see where the costs could be reduced. What are the town's real needs? What can wait a year or two? Can repaving streets wait a year or two? Can training and travel be postponed a year or two? What contracts can be renegotiated without furloughs? There are many other opportunities to reduce the budget if you really look. During the high school graduation last Friday, Ian Gannon told the audience, if I, quote, have learned anything, it's that leadership is defined as someone who can motivate a group of people to accomplish a task that might seem insurmountable, end quote. Work needs to be done by those elected to represent us. What we need now more than ever is real leadership. Please be those leaders. Please do not approve the fiscal year 2021 budget increase. These comments were sent to me by Nancy Howard of 16 Diane Ave, with Nancy's full permission to use it this evening. I could not have said it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. I would like to just clarify a few things here in closing, because we haven't gone through everything. And yes, the town administrator and the department heads put together a budget, and they've worked very hard developing this budget and trying to take into consideration some of the uncertainty. I think work has gone into this budget than prior budgets, just with trying to factor in some of the uncertainty. The council who has already provisionally approved these items. So going through this, we have looked at every department through the process, through the budget process, and we as a council have to date provisionally approved this budget. And so I think we have taken into consideration a lot of the uncertainty. I think we know full well moving forward that it is going to take a lot of monitoring and cooperation from all departments in order to get through this next year, at least with this budget, as we try to face some of these challenges that we're faced with the pandemic and uncertainty. We do not have those answers, but I think we have the leadership in place to help make those decisions, and they're not easy decisions. You saw it tonight. These are not easy decisions, and I thank the school department and the school committee tonight for reconsidering and taking the money out of their capital account. That little bit could help us, and those are the type of things that we're going to need to do moving forward. So I do think I do acknowledge all the hard work that's gone into the preparation of this budget. I do not think things were taken lightly. We do not, it's not easy to raise taxes, but we do have obligations, and we do have to provide the services to the residents of the town of Portsmouth. So collectively, we've had our opportunities to address the budget, and to this point, we've provisionally approved it. So that's what I would like to add. I do not want to see this being lumped onto the town administrator and the department heads. We as counselors have had every opportunity to review the budget that was presented. We've made adjustments. There have been revisions, and I think this budget, more than any other budget, has taken a lot of scrutiny. So I thank you, Mr. Rayner, and I thank all the department heads that got us to where we are today. And I'm going to ask for your continued cooperation to help us get through this next year. So thank you.
Mr. President, Keith Hamilton, motion to adjourn.
Wait a second.
Glenn's got to unmute. He's trying to say it without muting.
Seconded, Mark Ryan.
Gadsden, second.
A motion and a second. Just before we close, our next meeting is June 22nd is our town council meeting, and at that time is adoption of the proposed budget. and then followed by our July 13th council meeting and our July 27th. council meeting. So we have a
President,
Yes.
at the last meeting Monday night, you would ask us to take a look at the calendar.
Yes.
It would be our recommendation if you're going to cancel a meeting on
July 13th. Pick that up at our next meeting. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Ms. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Capson?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you all, and we will see you on the 22nd.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Good night.